My name is Lindsay Stevens and I'm a winemaker. I grew up here in the Finger Lakes. I spent my summers on Cayuga Lake water skiing and the winters skiing at a little tiny ski area called Greek Peak, not too far from here. I began my winemaking education at Cornell. I studied food science with a concentration in fermentations. So that was a varied background. It was right before they started the Enology program. So I got to test out their curriculum. So I took viticulture and wine tasting and food safety assurance and food processing. And after I finished my Cornell degree, then I learned actually how to make wine at Sheldrake Point Vineyards with Dave Breeden. And that's where I got hands-on education and learned how to drive a forklift and clean tanks and bottle wine and taste wine. And it's kind of an interesting story. He was the assistant at King Ferry Winery before he started his full-time position as winemaker at Sheldrake. And then after I did my apprenticeship with him, I got to be the winemaker here at King Ferry, so we've traded back and forth. There are plenty of winemakers and actually several female winemakers that I look up to. There's Helen Turley in California, who's really made her name making boutique wineries and running a really successful consulting business, and I look up to her, as well as Mary Edwards, another winemaker who was one of the first out of the UC Davis Enology program, and she's been actually someone that I've looked up to, and I've been able to call her up on the phone and talk to her about winemaking questions that I've had, and she's been nothing but helpful for me, chatting on the phone and learning about, you know, ins and outs of Pinot Noir productions. I always talked about going to art school when I was thinking about what I wanted to do with my life. And so if I wasn't making wine, I'd probably be a starving artist. But I decided I didn't want to starve, so I decided to use my artistic design in some other way. So winemaking is definitely a good artistic outlet for me. My first memory of digital technology is probably my grandfather's basement. A distinct memory of mine is the Pac-Man garbage can that he had, and how he was one of the first people that I knew with a personal computer, and that he had all of these great ideas to have a reel-to-reel recording situation set up in his basement, and it was so interesting to see that technology rapidly go out of style and to see him move on to something that was changing so quickly in the industry. It was, okay, that's done, now VHS, okay, then beta, now the VHS, now personal computers. So it was really interesting to see just how quickly technology was already changing when it was just emerging. I use a computer every day to keep me up to speed on historical records, on tax preparation. We have to submit tax documents twice a month to the federal government for tax purposes. We also have to submit labels for approval through the TTB. So all of that's digitized, and all of that makes me I'm much more efficient with my work by using digital technology for record keeping and historical information for the wines. I can go back and research a particular wine or the way that it was made from vintage to vintage to vintage. I can look at how much was made. I can look at how many tons we picked. I've been able to keep very detailed records, whereas when I first started at the winery, everything was handwritten and in manila folders. So I've been able to bring the winery up to speed much more rapidly with digital record keeping. I think we're going to be a generation of ADD problem children. Seriously though, I think that the millennials will have to reinvent themselves over and over and over again. It's no longer choosing a career that you're going to stay with for 50 years. I think that our generation will see technology change again and again and again, and so we will be constant learners. I always said my education at Cornell was learning how to learn, and going forward I could take that information and learn how to do pretty much anything that I needed to do. So I think that's valuable for the way that things are changing in our culture today.